Okay, I'm just gonna start. Good morning, Katie Thomas. All right, so I'm here today with Kirsten Miller with Miller Marriott Construction. This is a recent partnership between Keller Williams and Miller Marriott. She's going to give us some tips and tricks on custom home building process, how you as individual agents can better partner with home builders, and kind of some tips and tricks of the whole building process. And if you have any questions, just put them in the chat. We will have time at the end to go over questions, but we want to get through all of the content first. So Kirsten is going to share her screen, and we're going to go through the presentation first.
Okay, good morning, everybody. You guys have to bear with my cold voice that I have. It's that time of year for me. Okay, this should be it. Okay. Slideshow view. Can everybody see the presentation okay?
Yep, looks
okay.
Great.
So like Britt said, I'm gonna talk a little bit first about who Miller Marriott is, so you know, should I just say that? So you know who we are, and a little bit more about us as a builder. And then at the end, I'll summarize and I'll talk a little bit about how to best help your clients that, you know, we all know it's a unique market. Sometimes people aren't finding what they want and they're then deciding to potentially build. Well, how do you deal with a client like that? So I'm going to talk about ways you can help those clients they may potentially build and it still be a win-win for everybody. I'm also going to talk a little bit about how to just work with builders in general and what their perspective is. You guys can ask me any questions. I'm going to cover a lot of material, so let me get through that. But there's nothing that I would suggest you don't bring up. It's a good chance to be really candid because there's a lot of things and conversations out there about builders and what it's like to work with builders. I'll try and remove any myths and give you a little insight. So Miller Marriott, for those of you that don't know, in full transparency, the owner, Chris Miller, is also my husband. That's how I ended up in this business. I left my corporate job and I started working with him at Miller Marriott. And then we saw this opportunity to really help people wing to wing. And that's when I went and got my license. Not only are we a builder, we're also a developer. So we also do development such as like the sanctuaries. There's one in Delafield, there's one in Heartland, there's Barnwood Conservancy. We're in the process of doing one in Elm Grove and then one in Slinger as well. So we're a developer and a builder. We're mostly known though for building, custom building, and that's how Chris started out kind of on his side gig 20 some years ago, started building on the side as a custom builder. When his builder left the job halfway through and went bankrupt, Chris had to finish the job, and that's where Miller Marriott started. The name Marriott is Jim Marriott, who is an amazing architect who lives in the Heartland area. He's been designing homes for 35 years. He's kind of like the mad scientist behind everything. But this is the sign. You'll see that logo around. These are just some pictures of our houses. The brochure that I'm going to walk through when I was trying to determine what to share with you, this is what I share with potential clients because I feel like it answers a lot of their questions. So some of this may be repetitive with what I tell you to do with clients. But I think one of the first things when people are going to build is that they understand the team they're building with. We joke and we say, hey, you're in a relationship with people. These are our people. So we're a design build company. We have architects, construction managers, and interior designers, and salespeople. A lot of people, you'll see Elena Zeman on here. You know, we get a lot of people that are just looking for land. They need to sell their house while they're during the build process. We really are trying to make sure they have a good wing-to-wing process. And as we've learned over the years, you know, a one-stop shop for a client is really good. And that's who we are as a builder, which is a little bit different than some builders. Some builders, there's no design on staff. They have things called selection coordinators. We have true interior designers. We have true licensed architects, and then construction managers as well. So that's the team. And then why Miller Marriott? So I try to answer the obvious question when people look at us as a potential builder. You know, custom design can vary quite a bit. It can be from an idea in the sky to, hey, I like that plan, but I just really want to tweak it to myself. And I don't want package A, B, and C. I want something that's unique to me. So we are, like I said, in-house design, but we talk about the architectural experience. To be able to design like that, we really focus on a client and how they live before we do anything else. We don't want somebody to walk into our office and say, this is the tile I want. What we want to know is, how do you live? Do you entertain? Are you a cook? You're a chef? Do you you like to a lot of light and windows so you can see the outdoors? How do you live? So we talk a lot about the architectural experience. We also mention our interior design experience. Every client that builds with us is assigned an interior designer. There's quite a few decisions to be made when you're designing a home, aesthetically, how to make it all go together. And if you've done it, you know, only a couple times in your life, or you've never done it, it can be overwhelming. Our interior designers, we joke, they're there to do more than just spend your money. They're there to help coordinate the aesthetic of the house and find solutions to give you the look that you want. So that's how we partner with our clients through the process: architects, interior designers, and then construction. We have construction managers. A lot of people are worried about what happens for the 9 to 11 months, if not longer, depending on the size of your house. You know, how do I know what's happening? Because you can see the house going up, but then it looks like it's sitting, but you're not really sure. So everybody's also assigned a construction manager. Our construction managers let the clients know every Friday the status of their house, and they build a relationship. So if you want to take grandma and grandpa out there, you know, it's safe to do that. And you can ask questions during the construction process. If anything changes, if you want to make a change. We don't particularly encourage making changes during the build of a house. It can be done. We work really hard on a very transparent upfront process, because I think the two things that you hear people apprehensive about when it comes to building a house is cost and timing. They have families, they've got things to organize, so they want to know timing. When am I going to be in my house? Because I might have to change schools, or I might have to, you know, drive a longer distance to work. So I want to know timing, and I don't want surprises. And cost is a big one. And they want to know before a shovel goes in the ground how much this house is going to cost me. I think if you haven't, there's plenty of horror stories out there of people that are like halfway through the process, their house is in the process of being built, and then they get a bill for an extra $100,000, and that can be difficult. Or at the end, they find out it's, you know, an extra $100,000, and that money isn't financed money. That's money coming out of their pocket, and it's taken away from. For me, it would be taken away from furniture and decorating and all the things that I also plan to do. So that's a pretty big dissatisfier. So one of the other things we talk about are the customer experience and our processes, and we work really hard. Builders are not doing brain surgery, but there's a lot of moving parts. So it's really important that there's a solid process that allows clients to understand the expectations, not only of the builder, but of themselves during the process, and how it's going to work, and how they know how much they're going to spend and when they're going to spend it. So there's a lot of apprehension, and I get phone calls all the time from people that are like, I'm not sure I can do this. I don't know anything about it. Help me understand it. So we really focus on process. Build standards and quality standards. I'm going to talk a little bit about price per square footage. I get calls sometimes from agents that'll say, well, what's your price per square footage? And I'll give it to them. And that's kind of like it's like one question. And then I say, don't you want to know what you get for that? And so build standards and quality standards are really what goes behind a price per square footage. It's what somebody do, the insulation, the mechanicals, even up to the aesthetics. Are you getting quartz countertops or some other type of material? Are you getting real wood floors, or are you getting some type of vinyl or engineered floor? What is going into the price per square footage that they are quoting that they build to? And the other thing is, remember, when we're out looking and comparing, a existing home versus a price per square footage from a builder, that price per square footage is usually the home alone. And we'll talk about the cost on another slide. But the build standards, in my opinion, the quality and build standards are pretty important. Design build, I hit on this a little bit. We are a design build. I honestly don't know any other builders in the area that are full design build, maybe to a degree, but I don't know anybody that does it to the degree that we do. With that being said, we also have 3 different ways that we design. Custom probably makes sense to all of you. It's that idea, you have a unique piece of land, it's a weird lake lot, it's 20 acres in the country, you want to do something that's never been done before, that's custom all the way. Our design fees for a custom are right on there. It's $9,500 when you want to design. People can buy that design from us and take it to another builder, have it quoted, and there's a release fee for the actual design. Semi-custom is somebody may have an idea of what they want, and they really want to do a lot of customization. They want to move walls, they want to add garages, they want to add a sunroom. They really want to significantly either blend multiple designs or make a lot of changes, and that's the semi-custom. It's less expensive from a design perspective because you're really marrying things that have already essentially been architected before. Then Chris was really, after we were a custom builder for a period of time doing customs and semi-custom, we came across a need in the market for people that really wanted a custom home. They wanted the quality and the attention to detail, but they really didn't need all those choices. And so we created this product called an original. Why it's called an original is because we say it's an original to that client, because we've never built the same home twice. Even in the case with an original, you're building a design that we have already built before. So somebody may come to a model home and say, I love this. The only thing is, I wish the pantry, was a little bit bigger and my butler's pantry was a little smaller, something small along those lines. And I'd want a more neutral finish. We don't have to re-architect that. So we provide that as a complimentary design contract. They still go into a design contract with us, but we don't charge for that. The other thing we do with that is our interior designer does full curation, as opposed to semi-custom and custom, where they may do a hybrid that's, it could be just supporting design and curating, but original is full curation on certain elements. And if anybody ever has a client that's interested in that, you can certainly call me and I can give you some more details on it, but it allows people to get in at a relatively little bit lower price point, because one, they're not paying for design. Because of the pace of the process with full curation and no re-architecting, they can lock in changing material costs a lot quicker. They can also get a shovel in the ground quicker. And they're usually people that are a little bit more budget conscious as well. And we're able to control those costs with curation a little bit better. No sacrifice of quality, but it just allows people to manage that budget end a little bit better. So that's the original. And we do a lot of them, actually. Then what I share with people is the design process. And this is the part where people are like, well, how does this all work? How do I get from point A to point B? We have phases that we go through in design, a little bit different for the original that I just spoke with and then the others, but I highlight in here a couple things that allow people to know what the price of their home is. You wouldn't want to design, if somebody comes in and they say, hey, my budget's $800,000, we don't want to design them a home that's $1 million. So we have something called a mid-bid. We design the core home, we price it to those quality and build standards I mentioned, and then we give them a chance to look at where the house is coming in from a price perspective. There's this weird thing that happens in design. People naturally grow their house because it's sometimes hard to conceptualize just in 2D. And so there's a lot of shrinking of the house, but I've also seen the opposite. People come in a little bit less than what they expected, and they're like, oh, let's add this or let's add that. So we do that. It gives people peace of mind as well. that they're not surprised with costs. Pre-design is something that I think is important to this audience. So when you're working with a builder, I think there's some steps that you want to take to understand if it's the right builder for your client, but you have a tool in your toolbox in pre-design with builders to have them come look at land. There's many times I've seen people come into our office with a piece of land and they'll say, here's what I want to do. And we look at the land and we have to break the news to them that they can't do what they want to do because the setbacks, because it won't fit there, because there's an environmental corridor. There's a surprise to them. So we've experienced some heartbreak when people come in with a piece of land that they can't do what they want. That's why I tell people it's not too soon to ever get builders involved. And if you want them to look at the lot, discuss it, that's a common thing that happens in our office. Somebody might come in with a client and we might look at 1 or 2 lots and we can talk about what site conditions would be, because that impacts also the overall all-in cost, which I think is on the next slide, and I'll talk about it. But think about that pre-design or pre-build portion and using the builder as a tool for you and the client to make sure if they're in the process of purchasing land that they can do what they want. This is just an example of 3D design. It's something that I share with our clients. Back to visualization, the more you can help people visualize, and you guys have this experience too, sometimes people go into homes and they can't visualize how to make it theirs, and that's why we stage homes. It's why we remove a lot of clutter, because we want people to be able to envision themselves living in there. It's hard enough when the house is built. So when the house isn't built, it's really hard on a 2D drawing for people to envision how they would live in the space. How do they cook in the kitchen? You know, is that enough space in my nursery for my baby? So we put everything in 3D so that they can really envision that the design is appropriate for their needs. We also give them a feel for the construction timeline. I get this question a lot, is what does construction look like? I would say pre-COVID, builders might have been a month shorter than the 10 to 14 average because of unexpected delays. I think it's a little bit longer, but not outrageous. If you plan well and you make those choices up front early in the process, we've ran into a couple surprises, but it's been minimal. These are the build and quality standards that I referenced earlier. This is what you get for your price per square footage. Obviously don't try to read this, but it's an example. This is everything from the process tools that are used to all the things in a home that you can't see when it's a model home. It's the foundation details, it's the electrical details, your mechanicals, but it also has your aesthetic in here. You know, do you use custom cabinetry throughout, or only in the kitchen and then everything is a box cabinet? Those are the kind of things that your client needs to understand when they're making an investment. We also try and tell them where and how to start. Establishing a budget, and I'm going to skip ahead to this and then I'll come back to this. Establishing a budget is really important. If you've got somebody that may be out there and they're like, wow, I'm not finding the house that I really want, they may want to, if they're considering building, they may want to meet with a lender on a construction loan. A construction loan is different. And, people think, oh my gosh, I've heard this before. I'm going to build for 12 months and am I going to have 2 mortgages for 12 months? That's not how the process works. So if you don't have somebody that you recommend that does construction loans, I'd recommend finding a good referral source for yourself that really understands construction loans, because there's a uniqueness to every client. It depends on the equity in their home, even sometimes their profession, depending on the tools that are out there. But it has to be a lender with that tool. And I would recommend upfront, because land is going just as quickly as homes lately, and builders are getting really far booked up. So if they decide to pull the trigger, you want them to be ready, just like you want them to be ready to pull the trigger on a house. So establishing a budget and working with a lender is really important. The budget for building, and we give this to our clients because I don't personally believe in surprises. I don't like them, and I don't want an unhappy client because they were surprised. And especially when it comes around to money, that's usually not a really really forgettable kind of surprise. So when you look at building, if you're going to go out and build, I say there's 4 buckets to it. There's the cost of the land. Now, some people may already have the land, but if they don't, there's a cost of the land. And why I say they should understand what their all-in budget is up front is because the land can impact something called site conditions. And the site conditions, if this algebra formula boosts up in the first 2 buckets, obviously you're going to end up spending less money on the home. Site conditions in the lot can also affect landscaping and driveway. Anybody that's done major landscaping knows if you're in a lot that's going to force some type of retaining wall, they're pricey. So if somebody buys, an unusual lot that's going to require a lot of retaining walls, this 4th bucket could be pretty high. So you want them just to go in eyes wide open. Site conditions is a really unglamorous bucket. And I think this is another area you can help your clients when they're potentially interviewing builders, not only on what goes in your price per square footage, is understanding site conditions, because it's not cheap. In a normal development, I would say it's $50,000 to $60,000. And some people will be like, oh, is that only if it's well and septic? I will tell you, it varies by municipality. Some municipalities where it's not even well and septic and you're hooking up to their infrastructure, there's costs up to $25,000. So it can be expensive. That's where a builder can help too, is if you're walking land, they should know the municipalities and be able to give you a ballpark on what your site conditions could be. The other thing that could impact the cost of the house is going to be the HOA. So if you go into, somebody's looking at a lot in a development that requires 50% brick on the overall home, it requires, I don't know, I'm trying to think something else unique. Most of them require some consistency on 4 sides. Brick's the big one. Oh, it could require a cedar shake roof. The house, the price of the house probably just went up maybe another 50 grand. So not only the cost of the land, the location of the land can impact both these next 2 buckets. So if you can see, all of the buckets kind of work together and influence. They're not independent. So while you're looking at the land, it's a really great time to get a builder involved so that people can weigh their options. If I'm trying to decide between lot number 1 and lot number 2, lot number 2 may be cheaper, but my site conditions may be more expensive, driving my landscaping and driveway up, and in the end, it might be a wash. So it's kind of weighing out those different things, and you don't have to do all that. That's where the builder can help. Cost of the house is just that price per square footage that I was referring to. In my opinion, it's a level of investment, and it depends on where the clients are. All builders are going to build to a different price per square footage, and it just depends what people are looking for. There's a lot of great builders out there, and they all are coming in at different price points, and that investment varies depending on what's going into the house, and everybody's ready for a different investment at a different point in their lives. So that's establishing a budget. We talked a little bit about location. The other thing that builders can do, some of them, not all of them, I think we're unique in this way. I don't know a lot of builders that do this. And part of the reason that I was licensed and we started to framework Miller Marriott this way is based off of this company in Salt Lake City that was helping people with, there wasn't a lot of land available in most of their desirable areas. And people would come in and they'd say, gosh, I don't know whether I should buy a new home and sell mine. Should I go buy a home to remodel it and reno it? Or should I just tear something down and build it? What people were having to do at that time were to go to multiple people. I'm going to have to go to my realtor and ask about selling my home and buying a home. I'm going to have to go to a remodeler and talk about what it's going to take to remodel either my home or X home. And I'm going to have to go to multiple builders to find out, what I can build for. And the whole the whole situation became overwhelming to clients. So this company came up with a model where you can, I call them your kitchen table discussions, where you can find out what all your options are, especially in tough markets or areas where there's not plentiful land, there's not plentiful homes for sale. Then they can sit down and say, here are my options. Okay, I can go this way and I could tear this house down because I love this location and this is approximately what I'm going to get and what it's going to cost me. I could reno my house for approximately this much, or I could just buy a brand new home. So they can sit down at their kitchen table as a family and make those decisions. So that's really kind of how we advertise Miller Marriott in our services. With that being said, every one of you can really help with that part of the process. You may have a client that's in that same exact boat, which are the kind of clients we're looking for. And that's where you want to involve the builder to answer these same questions for your clients. And then I'll kind of summarize everything I just said. I'm going to take a drink because I'm talking too much. So 2 sections, helping your client build and working with builders. Some of this is repetitive, but we talked about determining the all-in budget. This I know will be a discussion topic if I don't even just bring it up right now. It's the commission discussion. Back to every builder being a little bit different. I think it's to call your builder, and I get a lot of agent calls and a lot of people asking about this. And I've seen it handled multiple different ways. We just happen to believe in a very transparent approach for both agents we work with, as well as our clients. Clients, when they're shopping around to builders, become pretty savvy on what goes into the cost of their home. And what none of us want is a client surprised and losing the trust, whether it's the trust for us as a builder, the trust for us as agents. So we keep it as a pretty open line item. We participate in co-broke, and that's like the number one discussion, but co-broke could mean something different for you and your client based on that particular client. Some people come in, the client's like, hey, you know what, I've been working with these people or with my agent for the last 2 years. You know, I knew I'd pull a switch on them. This is, you know, we want to keep the co-broke, and they're very upfront about it. And usually people have had that discussion with their client. Some people come in and they've already talked to their client and said, hey, you know, builders, you know, before they go through the building process, they'll say, you know, builders handle commission differently. You know, I want to be transparent with you and have any type of discussion up front, because I don't want you to be surprised. And that gives you a chance to be on their side. And most cases there, I usually see like a flat fee introduced. You know, they'll say, you know what, I would like to pay my agent $10,000. They might be building an $800,000 home. And they've only worked with them for a short period of time. But they appreciate the transparency. I know there's certain builders that build it into their percentage. And what happens when there's not an agent, they'll take it out. Now, kind of the rub there with clients is, wow, if there was an agent, you wouldn't really tell me that. And I would have been a little bit blind to that. Everybody has different levels of comfort with it. We've just had our experience with multiple agents and multiple clients. We just found the transparency works best. You know, we're really trying to do a couple things. And I think Charlie and I had this discussion early on. You want to help them purchase land. You want to sell their existing home. You want a trustworthy relationship. If you know the builder and the quality of the home, I will tell you, it will help you resell their home, and which is a plus. We have literally a waiting list at our office waiting for people that are selling a Miller Marriott home that may be out of state, and they see it on MLS and they're like, hey, when you know one's going for sale, can you give me a call? So if you help somebody build a home, when they're ready to build their next home, which hopefully we've made it a great experience, and they want to build another home, then you'll be able to understand the investment that they made up front and help them turn around and sell that home. Trust is a big I think a big repeat business driver. So I'll answer any questions at the end that you guys have about commission more specifically, but in general, I think we do more of a transparent approach. You know, it's no different. I guess I would tell you to look at it this way. It's no different when than when the closing statement comes and the commissions are spelled out right there. Whether you're on the buyer end or the seller end, it's pretty transparent at that point. Visit a construction lender. If you don't know if your lender of choice does construction loans, then I would recommend that you find one. I have a couple that I always recommend, but it's worth a call to them or a visit to talk about how they work, how it works a little bit differently. I think that's pretty invaluable information. And it's a big thank you I get from clients all the time when they've gone to, and I tell them just to even educate themselves up front, they really appreciate it. And then I think you're going to want to understand with your client what type of builder is going to fit their needs. And that's going to determine by their price point, what kind of product they're looking for, what kind of process do they want to be involved in? Do they want to design, like we're design build? Do they want to design, or do they want to go to somebody that just has 3 models and they don't want to go through any of that? And then personality, like I said before, they're with a builder for a long time and there's a relationship there. And you want to make sure that when they walk into the office, that they feel comfortable with the people that they're working with, that they like the environment, that they feel like they can relate to them, communicate well with them. So I tell people, even if they're looking at us for a builder, that they should want to be with their builder and not just default to a builder, but go, interview a couple, and so that you know that you're at the right place. And then for all of us as agents to know the builders and their uniqueness, to have maybe a couple recommendations. If somebody's building, their first entry-level house and they want to spend, $400,000, then you should have somebody in that price range. If somebody is, a $3 million massive lake home, it's nice to know who to refer them to. And if you're not sure, call builders up and ask them, and they'll tell you. And they'll also tell you how far out they are with builds. And that's your opportunity to work with a builder. And we'll talk about that in a second. We, Miller Marriott, I would say we average between, I would say 850 right now and about $1.5 million. That's kind of our sweet spot. We're about $250 a square foot on average. I always say that on average because
I believe Kristen froze. I think they may just jump off and then jump back on. So let's just give them 1 minute.
Awesome. They're going to really take the time to explain everything that
Does anyone have any questions that they want to throw in the chat? And then I can, if they can jump back on, I can, they can look at those. Otherwise, we can get the questions over to them and then they can send us a recap.
I'm not a pushy salesperson, so really, salespeople, but you really, I just want to make sure that whatever you're doing is comfortable. The only reason why I essentially offer sooner than later is not to With number 3, there's
So,
gonna be a
Elizabeth?
lot of people that are in your train of thought, where they're like,
Sorry, I accidentally hit enter. I was gonna ask if you're, the easiest way to schedule an appointment for a kitchen table conversation.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. No, you're good.
you're gonna be
Just want to jot it down there, so don't forget. I don't know that they're going to be able to jump back on. But sounds like this was a very productive conversation, and I think Miller Marriott has more to share. So if we'll connect and we'll get Evan out the information, anything that she can share, and then we will. Oh, wait, here she jumps back in.
That's a pretty fair amount of terrain that you can play with and manipulate. I mean,
You guys are back.
We're back. I don't know what happened.
We had a few people jump off, but I just opened it up for conversations in the chat. So if you want to jump back into your presentation, we can do that. And then,
I'm almost, I'll finish on that last page.
yeah, let me get you sharing access.
Oh, yeah, that's fine. Yeah, you got it.
gonna have the road there. He's gonna have to see the traffic.
When you have like, right, you're saying like right where my.
All right, you should be good to share your screen again.
This right here is actually.
Okay. Can you see everything okay?
Yep, you're all good. We can see your screen.
Okay, perfect. I'm not sure where I jumped off at. But I think I've covered a lot of how to help your client. That I think with working with a builder, a couple things, I think there's a lot of creative opportunities to work with a builder. And sometimes I ask myself, like, I'm surprised more agents don't do it. I think it can be a great partnership. So I say, get to know the builders in your area, go see their homes, understand their product and their price per square footage. I think it helps, like I said, to resell that. If you helped a client build, sell their home, if they use you again in the future, which you want, then it helps them, helps you understand their investment up front. I would call builders with potential clients and that they might be interested in. I would say make sure you understand their budget, potential location, timing, and their general needs. You can have a really worthwhile conversation with a builder around just those factors. If somebody calls me and says, hey, I've got somebody that, wants to do this, ginormous lake home and, they want to spend $5 million, that's a little out of our wheelhouse. I'm going to say you probably should call builder XYZ. If somebody calls me and says, the client's top of the budget is $600 all in, I'm going to say, I'm going to recommend somebody else because we're not going to be able to make it work for that client. If somebody, they may have plans, even though we design, somebody may have plans, they still may have to be modified. So we would work with them, but that would be the kind of question you could ask me, like saying, this is what they had a bad experience, or this is what they want, they saw this home. It's good to talk through that with a builder. And then you can find right away, they might say, hey, I'm booked out for the next, 2 years, and this person has to get started right away. So call the builder. This is where you can help your client, call the builder with a potential client. I think that's also an opportunity to talk about commissions and say, this is the relationship I have with this client, and, eyes wide open, this is, how we'd like to proceed. It's all a really positive experience. Understand how to best help the client together. And that's part of that discussion. In your conversation, you might be like, hey, maybe you and I should go take a look at the site. What do you think site conditions could be in this municipality? Is there any concerns? Understanding their standards. Just talked about commission, inventory of specs in model homes. this is where I'm always like, I'm surprised I don't get more calls. So probably not next week, but the following week, I will be showing the local team. We have a spec and 2 models that are in process. I'm going to start to advertise them in MLS in the next few weeks. I'm going to share them with the team so you guys can see them. But I get a lot of calls from people saying, hey, what are you working on? You know, is there anything coming up? When will it be done? Because they have somebody that hasn't been able to find what they're looking for. So I think same thing with people that are doing developments. You know, if, you know, Seatman's a great developer, and if they've got a new development coming, it's good to know what's coming, and so that you can provide that information for the clients. And then I say creative solutions. You know, teardowns, I'm so surprised too about this one. Teardown, to take a house down, an average size home usually takes 1 day and is about an extra 20 grand. If somebody can find a property in a neighborhood that they like, and it's a really great deal, a teardown is a great option for them to turn around and build. And a lot of people don't think about it. Some people are like, I have to have, you know, daylight windows. Well, there may not be an exposure on a lot, but there's ways to force exposures on certain lots. So there's a lot of like creative solutions. Land splits is a one I'm seeing a lot of. Somebody may be in Brookfield and they, you know, are looking at a massive lot. They can easily split the lot. They could turn around and sell a part of the lot and buy one part of it, and you probably could find somebody to buy the other part in Brookfield like in a blink if it's a nice lot. So there's all kinds of creative solutions, and I think when you work with a builder, you can help find some of those for the particular client. We just had somebody come in and we're like, oh, but hey, did you happen to see, you know, this lot over here, and this might be a good opportunity? And they hadn't thought about it before because they had driven by it, but they didn't realize how a house could go on it and what you could do differently from a landscaping perspective. And it was a huge, it would be a great return on their investment, a huge return on their investment. So they just hadn't thought of it in that kind of way. And sometimes it's hard to picture how a house is going to go on a piece of land. So that's where a builder can help you. I just say communication, transparency, builders will be your friends. I think there's always this, like some builders don't work with agents. I think if you were to talk to my husband, he'd say people with a lot of common sense would probably not become builders because it's not the greatest industry and the margins are not huge. Some people think if you build $1 million house, you just made $1 million. And I really wish it worked like that, but it doesn't. So I just think communication, transparency, working together with builders is really beneficial. And the one thing you don't have to do, and I've had people ask this question, you don't have to assist in the build or the design process. I've had agents call me and saying, well, do I need to come to the design meetings if I'm taking a commission? Do I need, you know, to be there during the build process? The answer is no, you don't have to. It's, you know, I would guess most builders don't really want you to. If your client wants you to and they feel better that way, that's fine. But there's people that are going to be doing the job through the entire process. So that's all I've got. That's just my advice to you around helping clients and how to work with a builder. It's a little bit about us. We're located in Heartland. The other common question I get is how far out do you build? You know, we build up in Cedarburg and Mequon. We've been, you know, as far south as Mukwonago. It's usually a question for Chris, and it depends on where our subs are and where our crews are of where we can actually do builds and the type of build. But that's another good reason to call a builder. Okay, questions? There's got to be some.
Elizabeth wrote a question in the chat section. She asked what the easiest way to get an appointment for a kitchen table conversation.
Just call the builder. If it's us, Miller Marriott, you call the company phone, or you could call me direct, and you know, I'll make sure that we've got the right people there. But yeah, it's just easy to do.
Quick question, should they be asking or educating their clients if they're calling around to other builders? Like, what should they educate their client and asking builders?
Yeah, I think I would kind of take some of the things that I recommended in here. Know what their price per square footage is and what they get for that. You don't want the bait and switch where somebody comes in and says, oh, I can build your house for $500,000. But then when it's the way they want it, it's actually $650,000. That's a huge dissatisfier. So you want to understand what they get for their price per square footage. A good thing for clients to do is, like I showed you our sheet, you could start to compare that builder to builder. So you can see what you're getting for the price per square footage. Understand the site conditions and how the builder manages that. So for us, Miller Marriott, we manage everything for site conditions, which means getting the land entitled and permitted with the municipality. That could mean multiple meetings with the municipality. Sometimes it's paying certain bonds, road bonds, things up front. It's impact fees based off of municipality. The builder should be able to tell you that depending on the location that they're going to build in. They should be able to give you a ballpark. Tree removal is a big question there under site conditions too. You know, some people are afraid of really treed lots, like, oh my gosh, it's going to be so expensive. In that scenario, I would ask, how much will this add to the build of this home? I would ask about personnel, how they work, how the process works. You know, depending on your client again and what they're looking for, how do you marry their needs? Are they looking to do some level of design, some level of customization? Whatever your client's looking for, those are the questions I would ask of the builder. And the more you know about your client's needs, the more you help the builder. Even for the kitchen table discussions, when you call to make the appointment, if you're looking at a couple pieces of land, let us know what those pieces of land are, because what we'll do is we'll pull them up, we'll look at any surveys that exist, any topography, so that we can walk into that kind of discussion with a little bit more information that we can share with you and your client.
Do clients need to be pre-approved on a construction loan prior to meeting with you, or?
Not prior to meeting with us, and so for us, we work under design contract first. And then when a client has completed the design of a home, then they should have an associated price. This is where it gets tricky with outside architects and other people that are just builders, because an architect may not always have it priced out. In our case, they sign a design contract, they go through that, we get a final price for the house, and then they sign a construction contract. If they're working with a lender, that's where their 45 days or wherever the lender is taking is going to tick from that construction contract. During that design period, we will have them get pre-approved. I usually recommend to most people, and I would say 99.9% of the people building do this, they've already talked to a construction lender coming in, because they want to know how they can manage their finances through the process. Back to, do I have 2 mortgages? How much can I really spend during the process? You know, should I put in a contingency fee? They're going to have a feel for that. And we try to be really helpful with very transparency. Like we'll give you a sample pricing presentation that'll break out like all the site conditions. You know, if somebody works with budgets and allowances for making selections, we're going to make that really simple for the client, but they should know what they could afford before going in there and designing the house of their dreams, and then being like, oh, now I can't do that. Now I'm in love with it. Now I've got to go start from scratch. That's a great question. That's a good recommendation.
Any other questions?
That's pretty easy. Well, I hope this information is helpful. I think there's a lot of partnership that can happen when working with a builder. We hope it's with us. I mean, our ideal client, we have 2 ideal clients. I would say we see a lot of people downsizing right now. They're coming out of really big, massive homes in Elm Grove or Brookfield or on the east side. They're either coming over here to Lakes, or they're looking for a smaller, high quality home. And they're really our wheelhouse. You know, they may have built before, but they know what they want, and they're going to make their home specifically them. That's why they fit right in, because we can really customize to how they live. The other is, I would say, a lot of younger couples that are, looking for the home they want to spend the next 20 years in raising their family, and they want a really great investment, a great neighborhood, and they want to be able to know that they have little worries in their home while they're raising their children. Like, I don't have to put a lot of energy into maintaining this house. In 5 years, I'm not going to have to touch up all my drywall. In 5 years, I'm not going to have to do any types of repairs. Like, they really want peace of mind, and they want to raise their family and just enjoy their home. So those are, like, I would say that that's a really good description of our target market. When models come available, I will invite everybody to come see a model, and you can walk through some of the standards. It'll get you more familiar. Selling homes, you're probably very familiar with some of them already, but sometimes it's nice to see some of the things that are the non-aesthetics and really be able to understand what kind of benefit that is for your client. So we'll be happy to show you those.
And you can get a hold of Kirsten from our Lake Country roster, Kirsten Miller. Phone number, email address is on there as well.
Yeah, perfect. Or you can, email me with any questions.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.